first episode of the Let's Get Mental podcast. My name is Joseph Martinez. I am a 25-year-old, 5-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, 3 years in presidential security, and 2 years in the Victor unit. I've been out of the Marine Corps for 2 years. In that time, I've done some commercial plumbing, as well as fulfilling a lifelong dream of working at GameStop. Now I'm going to college and thought, why not start a podcast? My podcast is going to be about the secret struggles we all go through and what we do to get through those troubling times. Today's episode will feature a close friend of mine, Mr. Tanner Williamson. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Hello. Welcome to the first episode of the Let's Get Mental podcast. I'm here with my friend Tanner. Tanner, say hi.
Hello, hello.
So, I guess we'll go into how we met and how we know each other. So, I think the first time we met each other was at camp, correct? Or was it at DC?
I think maybe in passing in DC, but probably up at camp personally.
Yeah. So it was because you were in first platoon, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I was in second platoon. So yeah, we would only been with talk to one another through passing. So
Yeah, it was never really. I can't imagine we had much direct contact beforehand. Like I knew of you and had spoken to you in passing, but never like personal.
yeah, me too. So we met at Camp David, and for those who don't know, Camp David is a presidential retreat. You could just Google. Literally, I'm googling Camp David. And what will come up is Camp David is the 125-acre country retreat for the President of the United States. And it goes into some details about what actually Camp David is for. So Tanner and I met each other at Camp David, which is which was awesome, I think. Tanner, when did you join the Marine Corps?
I went to boot camp the very beginning of November in 2015.
Okay. I went in 2015 of June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a bit ahead of me.
You said November, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only 5 months ahead of you.
Yeah. That's something too. Like, it's one of those things that guys like to yell at each other about, is like how much more senior than you they are.
Even if it's like 2 months.
It breaks down to a couple months at most. Some people that are really crazy about it is even like a week or two, like a couple weeks.
Oh God, yeah, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I hate that. I hate when they're like, I joined the Marine Corps in June. When did you join? Oh, July. Like fucking boo. You're fucking boo, dude. Fucking boo, bitch, bro.
Yeah, especially because I was November 2nd. I went, and there was a couple of guys I met that were like the 20th of October, and yeah, same thing. Like, oh yeah, I was well established by then.
Oh sure you were, pal. Yeah, well.
I'm like, dude, we were all at boot camp at the same time. Like, you're 2 weeks ahead of me. It wasn't that wasn't that big of a difference.
It's just a stupid mentality.
Yeah, it's just one of them. Like, I think I got to find a power play here, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
When did you get to DC? Do you remember?
That would have been, I just had to fill it out. That would have been July of 16.
July of 16.
Because I had the extended leave after boot camp.
Oh, okay.
Because
so you got to stay home.
Yeah, for the for 30 days leave instead of the 10 typical, because you know how SOI always got backed up.
Yeah.
So I got that extended leave, so I would have gone to SOI the very end of February or maybe the beginning of March, and then all of that, and then BSG.
BSG. Oh, God, BSG. Basic Security Guard School, dude. What a lame fucking name for a school, dude. Basic Security Guard School.
Yeah.
I remember when I was telling my buddies, "Yeah, I'm going to BSG," and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, Basic Security Guard. And they're like, "Dude, you're a dude."
Like, yeah, it's just it sounds like you just. I mean, unfortunately, the reality of it is some of it you get basically trained how to sit in those booths and just check people's IDs and like
Yeah.
and what to do when people don't want you to and such. But
So you got in. Okay. I got to DC February of 2016. I
okay, yeah,
actually spent my
that adds up.
19th birthday in DC.
Okay,
Yeah. Did you turn 21 in DC?
I turned 21 in DC. Yeah, just by like the little skin of my teeth before I left.
Yeah.
But I was 20 when I got there. Yeah, because I turned 20 in BSG. I remember that.
I turned 19 actually February of 2016. I think I did turn 19.
Okay, yeah.
Because I didn't turn 21 until camp. And that's insane. Being 21 at camp, that was
That's just
insane.
that's broken.
It's so bad.
I think I remember your birthday up there actually. Wait, when it would have been February?
Yeah, I think I turned 21 in
20.
2018, 2017.
Yeah, I think. Wait, I think you would have been 21 the February after I turned 21. So yeah, that would have been 2018.
2018, yeah.
Look at us trying to do math over here, but
Jesus.
um, but yeah, I think I remember that because I got up there in November, and yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
I do remember getting so shit faced, so drunk that I forgot who it was. I think Shaw, he just hit the top of my beer and all that foam came out and I
Oh yeah.
slammed the beer and then I was like, I'm gonna throw up. I have to throw up. And I was like, I went to the bathroom of this dirty, dingy bar. I forgot the name of the bar, but I just threw up everywhere, all over the bar floor, all over the toilet, dude. I was like, all of my shoes. I was like, fuck, I threw up everywhere.
Was it that shitty like little basement bar
In
in
in Maryland, and
yeah,
I forgot its
Was it
name.
Hagerstown? Is that where?
Was it Hagerstown? I thought
No,
it
it
was in
wasn't.
Frederick,
Yeah. Well, Frederick. Yeah, Frederick was like the
the
bigger
county.
city.
Oh yeah, Frederick was the county.
Well, Frederick was the county, and then Frederick was also that bigger city where we always went for haircuts and stuff.
Yeah. Damn, I forgot that
No,
stupid bar's name,
it's
man.
not College Park. It's I don't know. I know the place. It's that stupid college town that everyone went to all the time.
Yeah.
And in reality, looking back on it, you think everyone would go there on their weekends off because it seemed like the greatest place ever because there was other 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds. But you look back at it and it was just so gross.
It was Maryland in the whole. Maryland as a whole. I'm gonna speak on Maryland. Yeah, I'm gonna sling some disrespect towards Maryland. Maryland, so out of all the places in Maryland that I actually enjoyed, it was Baltimore that I actually had the most fun in.
Okay, yeah.
Baltimore was the best part of Maryland, I think. Thurmont was trash, bunch of nasty meth heads in
Yeah.
Thurmont.
Yeah.
Frederick, I didn't really like. Um, it's just wherever Marines go, Marines are like parasites, and they're
Yeah.
like weeds. So
Yeah.
once Marines get somewhere, it's really difficult to root them out.
Yeah, because it's like the telephone effect where, two guys go out, maybe you and I go to somewhere in Baltimore or somewhere else in Maryland, and we found this one cool bar, and then we go tell 200 people. Suddenly it's just It's
Suddenly
like
it's a watering pool for fucking Marines, dude.
yeah, in the weirdest, most business supportive way too.
Yeah.
Because I'll say,
So,
I mean, obviously some people get real stupid at the bars and everything when they've been going at it, but like somehow, I mean, obviously people get kicked out for being rowdy, but I've never had an experience with anyone. Maybe I just hung out with the right people, but I haven't had an experience where someone I was with, um, like got in a fight with like the bartender or the bar staff. You know?
you definitely hung out with the right crowd because the those guys that like tended to make trouble with the bartenders or with the bouncers and stuff, those are the guys that were at like perma camp and like the guy's been up there for like 3 years and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those guys who just drinking their depression away. It's
Yeah.
fucking guys who just want to go and fight people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the guys that are going to start trouble.
Yeah, because I mean, I was with some people where they would like, get into it with someone else at the bar, but never like the bartender or the bar staff.
Yeah,
Or
I
I think I don't want to name the name, but there was one person I was with where they were like yelling at the bartender because the bartender just kept walking past them, and I was like, "Hey, dog, he keeps walking past you because you're screaming at him. He's not going to give you service because you're already absolutely hammered and he knows it, and you're screaming at him." It's like, oh fuck this guy! I'm gonna jump back there.
I'm gonna
Literally
jump
two
back
seconds
here and
later,
fucking grab that motherfucker. Like what, dude?
ba-
Chill out,
all of a
bro.
sudden the bouncer came out of like thin air and just snagged him, and we left.
So now that we went down memory lane a little bit, we'll kind of backtrack. We'll go back to the beginning of our military careers, and we'll just bounce
Okay.
back and forth. So you went to ITB, obviously, and you trained as a mortarman, correct?
That's correct.
So I trained as an 0311, so infantryman, just a straight fucking door kicker, because I wasn't smart enough, I guess, to be a weapons marine. And when I tried to be a machine gunner is what I wanted to be. I just wanted to be a machine gunner. And the weapons platoon sergeant was like, "Yeah, Martinez, you're gonna be mine." I was like, "Okay, sick." And then he was like, And then the day of reckoning came, the split, and everyone's getting split into the weapons, into to 11s,
Yeah.
and then the machine gun was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Martinez, I can't take you. I can only take a couple of security forces guys, and I can't take you." And I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, all right." So that was my introduction to disappointment in the Marine Corps. Little did I know it was not going to be the last disappointment by any
No.
means.
No.
So we both joined in 2015. We both graduate ITB in 2016.
Yep. Would have been early
Yeah,
mid 2016.
early mid 2016. We both get to DC in 2016, correct?
Hmm. Yep.
And then when did you pass? When did your clearance pass?
I think about November. Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
It was 4 months after my year mark at the barracks was when I cleared. So my year mark was February, so June. I cleared in June. So I was pretty lucky. I only had to spend 16 months at the barracks.
I think I had almost the exact same. I think I might have just tickled 17.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I was right around that mark too, somewhere between 14 and I think maybe 17.
Yeah, I made it to 16, and then I was like, dang, I'm not gonna be one of those guys who have like 24 months, 26 months at the barracks. I was like
Yeah.
kind of sad about it because all my friends were still there. And then I thought about it, I was like, no, fuck this. I gotta get
The the
I
whole
gotta
point
get
of
the
coming here
fuck
was
out.
like it is weird when you think about it because the whole point of going is to leave.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the whole point of going is just to be there for hopefully as little time as possible, but
We know that not to be true.
yeah.
And so you went to camp in 2017.
Mhm.
I went to camp in 2017. And you stayed there until 2019, correct?
19. Yep.
2 years. some of the best and worst times of my life were spent at Camp David.
Yeah, it's certainly a bittersweet experience.
Hmm. And then when did you get orders to the fleet?
Actually, while I was in a different school, I got orders for May of 2019.
That's right. You went to CQB
I was
school.
in CQB school in order to become basically the training NCO,
Uh-huh.
and then while I was there, a couple of the other guys were talking about they had gotten orders just from different units that were there, but they were talking about they got orders, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to get orders, but what the hell? I'll check my MOL, go on there, and sure enough, there it is. You will report to Victor 2-3.
Tell me why. Okay, tell me why. All the people who got orders and when I got orders, right? I was the only person. Everyone else got Hawaii or 2-7. I am the only person that got 2-8. I am the only person that got East Coast orders.
They banished you to the Shadow
They
Realm.
banished me to the Shadow Realm, to the shittiest part and the shittiest fucking unit in the fucking Marine Corps, dude. And I think it was because they fucking hated me. I'm like, I could say that now because I'm out of the Marine Corps. I don't have time in my inactive reserve. So I could say this. Fuck chain of command. Because I really do think they gave me orders to 2-8 because they fucking did not like me.
I don't know if they. I'm still on IRR and still use my my clearance, but um, yeah,
Say
I
fuck the
don't.
government for me. Just say it.
I
Just say
can't. No,
fuck the government.
no. Fuck you, Joe. That's what happened. Um, I don't know because it was strange because there was a bunch of units out west that were all like the whole reason I got orders there was because 2-3 was gearing up for their next deployment or their next UDP.
Oh, yeah.
And I imagine that's why you got 8th Marines, but yeah, it is inconvenient, or I guess actually convenient and a little bit like fishy that the one guy who like more than anyone else I knew there would just speak his mind like this is bullshit. You're treating us like hell and I don't like it. And then suddenly that very same guy gets the worst orders possible.
And I asked first sergeant. I was like, first sergeant, I was like, why am I going to 2-8 when like 3 other NCOs just in front of me got orders to 2-7?
Mm-hmm.
And first sergeant was like, we cut you orders. We try to cut you guys orders to places where they're going to deploy right away, and that's why we got you orders to 2-8 so you could go on a MEU.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but on the other hand, fuck you, because I wanted to go to 2-7 so bad. I would have been in 29 Palms, 4 or 5 hours away from Arizona, and I would have been right next to my wife. And that would have been. I probably would still be in the Marine Corps till this day if I got orders to 2-7.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a good thing I didn't get orders, but still, I am pretty bitter about that.
Yeah, I mean it could have been a blessing in disguise, but it is unfortunate to like not get the experience then.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like obviously everyone's kind of I mean it's the cheesiest and worst thing to say, but also unfortunately very true is like you're just kind of at the whim of the needs of the military, like any branch you're in, it doesn't matter. For the most part, you're just at like once you sign the active duty contract, it's just kind of like, oh, yep, I know you are here, but now you're needed across the country because yes, I think it's interesting because you lose the experience that you may have wanted, but like ultimately, as frustrating as it is, that's just like it's all part of the game,
Yeah, and it's I mean, they tell you, just because you want to go somewhere doesn't mean you're going to go to that place.
Now, are there there does exist ways where you can get closer to your preference, but that's only if you've kind of checked some boxes.
Like what?
Like if you've been, not the kiss ass. I wouldn't say the kiss ass because they just for the most part they would hold on to like
Oh, you're talking about the chain of command birds, the birds that are in the first sergeant's ears and always talking to the CO when they're coming around. You're talking about
Yeah,
those
those
guys.
not even the guys that are like snitches or anything, but just like the guys who, get their name in the most.
Right, right.
Not the guys who are just like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Yep, good, me too, thanks. Sounds good." But the guys that are like chatting them up forever, and then, as soon as they hear downwind that there might be orders coming out for anyone, then, suddenly they're on the phone with their monitor because yeah. I just I think I expected to get orders. I can't remember whether or not I got like warned that I might. I don't think I got warned at all. Um, but yeah, at some point I was just like, all right, I don't really care where, as long as it's not Lejeune.
Oh, I mean, you got Hawaii, which is dope.
Yeah, it was a very cool experience actually.
Yeah, I got Lejeune. Not a dope experience.
Super not cash money.
Super, super not cash money, actually. So, yeah, did you deploy with 2-3?
Yep, I did. We did a UDP to Oki, to
Oh,
Okinawa.
nice, nice.
And that was,
Okie.
yeah, I mean, you're not a real Marine if you haven't been to Okinawa Stan. Um,
Okinawa stand, bro.
yeah,
Japanistan.
yeah. Um, but it was weird because we got there, and I'm not sure if dates are acceptable to talk about for that kind of thing, but we got there, and then in January of 2020, not long after we had gotten there, suddenly COVID is a thing.
Mm.
Um,
Oh
and
yeah, dude.
and
That
we were in
fucking
the middle of
sucks.
like a couple different training things, and January time frame, everyone still thought like, whatever, like, yeah, this is a problem in this one isolated part, and then suddenly it was global, and then suddenly everyone was closing everything. And obviously we were in Japan at the time, and so we were at what to the rest of the world was the epicenter. And everything stopped. Like motion stopped, the wind didn't blow. It was absolutely insane. You could look out of the gates. We got locked onto base, and you could look out of the gates, and you wouldn't see a car for 25, 30 minutes. And previously, you would see them, just all the time, because everything outside the gates closed. There's a whole little city or a whole little town that kind of forms around foreign located U.S. bases, and that whole little town had kind of stopped moving except for a select few number of people that were still wandering.
Dude, that's interesting because I was RBE when COVID hit. So
Okay.
I got to experience when COVID hit as on base in the US, and that was insane. Because
Uh,
if you think your little um stay home for 2 weeks and don't go outside really made you sad and want to cry, try being on a fucking military base where you have zero rights as a military member. You have to adhere to if they put a curfew out, you have to stay indoors. If they tell you not to go out, you will not go out. Like it's not a fucking choice on base.
yeah, no,
They
not
had
at all.
MPs and they were telling people we're gonna uh, put Marines on each deck and be like,
uh,
each Marine, they're gonna be deck Marines. Like you're not gonna be able to leave your rooms and shit. So
yeah,
I'm really interested in what you had to go through in Japan because yeah, I mean, we all that's what everyone was saying, right? As messed up as it sounds, it came from you know uh, China or whatever. So I mean, I guess you could
yeah,
be at the epicenter because people are idiots.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it had started in China, but um, apparently one of the most affected places when we started hearing about it was a Japanese island called Hokkaido.
Hmm.
It's like, I think it is or is very nearly the northernmost Japanese island. And they were basically like full on. You could look at that little map, and it was like a full on red zone type of deal. But obviously, Okinawa is very far south, south of the main body of Japan, and I think just in general the country of Japan just kind of went like full stop, close everything shuts down, and we stop all atomic motion. But then so on base we had a very weird experience because we returned from a training op, and then we had been hearing, we had to, then we started with masks. I'm trying to remember it all, but we started with masks when we got back, and then it was a full lockdown because the Marine Corps in general was trying to, figure out how to work around this situation and find the happy mediums of not getting every single Marine sick, but also not just kind of isolating forever, because we still had to do training and we still had to maintain readiness. But there was definitely that gray period, as anything has, like, especially on such a large scale. You talk about an entire nation's military, all nations' militaries all over the world had to suddenly figure out, how to comply with the
CDC.
rules. Yeah, comply with the CDC and their respective nations' rules on what they had to do, but also still do things. Because a lot of those rules were made, for civilians. Stay at home, don't leave your houses, only leave to go to the grocery store, and if you do walk outside your house, you have to have a mask, and don't talk to anyone, don't go to anyone's house, etc. And then the military tries to, it's kind of a unique situation because everyone living on base, especially while you're on a deployment, or especially in a UDP scenario where, like, I, for instance, would have just been in my house on base in Hawaii with my wife, but instead every single person, married or not, is living on base now.
Yeah.
So they basically just shut the gate, they locked it, and the only thing that came in and out of the gate, I think, for a while was a very rare approved local training. There was a bit of training ground on the island, and then delivery trucks going to and from the chow hall. And at the start of it, it was full on, don't leave your barracks rooms at all, period.
Yeah.
The gym was closed, everything was closed. Don't leave your barracks rooms except for to go to the chow hall. And then they got the chow hall on these weird hours because they were splitting up who would go to the chow hall by unit, because there's a whole bunch of units on that base at any given time. And so then someone else would go, and then we would rotate in, and you could only get hot tray, like you had to get the to go and leave. Yeah, it was insane. It was a bit nuts, a bit disorganized, a lot of disorganized. Just, you got 50,000 people all trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And then
that's
slowly
crazy.
but surely we were allowed, slowly but surely there was like, okay, now you can go to the chow hall, you got to wear a mask, you can sit down and eat, and they weren't separating it by units. And then they tried to I'll never forget when they tried to just like pick it up like nothing happened, where they tried to bring like our whole company out at once. And the base commander was like the training op kind of came across his desk, and he was like, absolutely not, because for the most part they were still separating everybody then by platoon.
Yeah.
And so anything that we did, we would have to do as a platoon, and then someone else could come through and do it, like the rifle range or whatever. But what the kind of the unique perspective of that was, like, you were an 11, so you've got multiple platoons of 11s within a rifle company, but I was in the 81s platoon of weapons company, and so for the most part, 99% of the time, all of our operations were just us by ourselves anyway.
Yeah, because I mean, two boys don't really do much. You guys. What do you guys do? You guys pop on your backs, you turtle up, you play fucking spades, and just suck each other off, dude. I feel like, dude, two boys don't do much.
we did a lot of hiking, because so the way it's supposed to go is that 81. So you got mortarmen that are in your rifle companies as 60 millimeter mortarmen,
Right.
and then
And
we were
those are
81s.
attached. Right. Those
Yeah,
the
those.
60s are attached to squad
Yeah,
elements.
yeah. But then 81s, we are kind of our own entity, kind of
Well,
on the
81s
sidelines.
is a company asset, correct?
It is, or it's a battalion asset. Sorry.
It's a oh yeah, it's a battalion asset. So that's
Yeah,
yeah, 81s. You guys are really out there on your own. You guys
yeah.
aren't.
Because any company within the battalion could have called on us.
Mm.
Obviously, so long as it's within our purview. Um, but yeah, it was strange because we were kind of our own isolated element anyway most of the time, and we were supposed to have trucks, and like each gun squad is supposed to have a truck, and that way
Don't you like that word? Don't
one
you like
gun squad can load
supposed?
up. What's up?
Supposed. Don't you like
Yeah,
supposed in the military? Hey, we're
yeah,
supposed to get transpo out there. Hey,
yeah.
we're supposed to have hot chow. Fucking supposed, dude. I hate that
Well,
fucking word.
apparently we were one of not few, but the minority definitely, or the majority definitely had the proper amount of vehicles. Apparently, from what I have heard, just from other guys who had PCS'd in from other units.
Mhm.
But yeah, we definitely did not have that, and so we spent just a lot of that time once we were allowed to do things as a platoon, just hiking around base for no good reason. Um, I mean, obviously there's a physical reason, but we mostly just spent our time walking around, hiking on base with the heaviest packs we could come up with. And then we finally got a shoot approved, or we got a range approved. And the only person that was allowed to come out to our range to visit us outside of our platoon was our company commander. So, like, the battalion commander usually comes out and just says, hey, and, watches a bit. And then some other people might roll through from battalion. But the only person who was allowed to come to our range the whole time we were there was our company commander.
Weapons company commander?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense because he's obviously with you guys and he's the company commander.
Yeah. He's our next direct superior above
Right.
our platoon commander.
Yeah.
I guess besides the XO.
See, that's crazy. See, the only difference between that and stateside was COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
And New York is getting decimated, and we're getting told that, like, hey, this COVID stuff, it could be an issue, it could not be an issue. Make sure you guys wash your hands. Make sure you guys, exercise caution. We're not going to do anything yet. And then when the cases started to hit US, it didn't get serious until the first case popped up in Camp Lejeune. And then that's when it just got batshit crazy. Marines weren't allowed to go outside. We were told that the chow hall was going to only be open on these certain hours, and we were going to start to switch up, and groups of Marines were going to start to go to this, and group Marines are going to go to this chow hall hours. And so that all happened while I was in 8th Reg. I got fapped out to 8th Reg Armory.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was a sergeant at the time, and so we're it's just as a as a sergeant in 8th Reg, I was given way too much responsibility for a sergeant who was getting out in like 6 months. So I'm going to these morning meetings with gunnies and FLIR sergeants, or gunnies and staff sergeants. I'm going to the morning meetings. I'm getting told that my Marines need to get accountable. I need to get health screens. I need to screen my Marines every morning. And I'm like, first off, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what the fuck I'm looking for. Second off, you want me to screen these Marines and stand in front of the Marines and ask them all these questions. Hey, do you have symptoms? Are you sniffling? Are you coughing? Do you feel out of breath, lightheaded? And I am exposed even more because I'm just sitting there, just like telling them, "Hey, are you sick or are you not sick?" And then they're just right in my fucking face, and I'm like, "Okay, that's sick." So, I'm every morning I'm knocking on my Marine's door, and we had to get that information to our company first sergeant by 7 o'clock in the morning. He
Oh,
wanted
great. So
all
you're knocking
Marines.
on doors at 5.
Dude, I'm knocking on doors at 5 in the morning. I'm waking people up. I'm making sure Marines are up and telling me, are you sick? And I had this one jackass who wouldn't get up. And I was like, are you sick? And he's like, no, Sergeant, I don't think I'm sick, but I do feel kind of like sniffly. And this was like, if you have any symptoms, you're going to quarantine for 2 weeks. We're not even going to play it. And I was like, dude, if you tell me right now that you have any type of symptoms, I have to pass it up. And I have to pass it up, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's not an if and or but. I'm like, I'm going to pass it up, and then you are going to go to quarantine.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I feel a little sick. And then it was like black bag, dude. They came, got his ass, took him to the barracks. He was quarantined for 2 fucking weeks, bro. I was like, God damn, dude, they're out here just black bagging everybody and not giving
Yeah.
a fuck.
I think we
So
did 3 weeks of like complete lockdown with very similar procedures like um you would we didn't do door-to-door checks, but it was text checks.
hmm, but
Um
the tech stuffs.
yeah, text ups for, do you have symptoms and all that? And then
Hmm.
in order to get physical accountability, like one squad leader at a time would go through the hall and knock on their guys' doors just to like hear their voice in their room. Which for accountability purposes, I guess, serves the function because you have now confirmed that they are in fact in their room. But it was just this strange time of trying to figure out like how are we going to do this? How is this going to work with the least risk possible, but still, be able to complete training and yada yada yada. And then there came certain things that like, you look at it from the outside and you're like, why are those clowns outside in the field standing 30 feet apart from each other and then yelling at each other that like, yeah, we're all good today, blah blah blah, because that's how we had a battalion meeting or something right at the end. And by that point we had established procedures of like, everyone's just got to wear a mask and blah blah blah, but we had this like battalion meeting with like everyone from I think like platoon sergeants up, and they were all like outside in this field behind the barracks just like shouting at each other. And it was
Idiots,
just
dude.
like
Just
I can't
dumb.
imagine that you like could look at that from the outside and be like, what like what are you seeing when you look at that?
Dude, when COVID was happening, and I was in regiment, okay? The regimental commander, a fucking full bird colonel, he told us, right, he wants to have a formation.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I mean, that doesn't make any sense because we were told to not have any formations. I was told I'm not allowed to have formations with my Marines or PT my Marines or do anything with my Marines. But the regimental commander was like, no, I want to see all the Marines. And
Mm.
so, no shit, dude, Tanner, I cannot make this up. We have to go out in this giant field of grass spread apart, and the regimental commander had a fucking, the bullhorn,
Yeah.
like the fucking micro, dude. He had one of those, and he was just telling us to be safe and to exercise
Yeah.
all CDC guidelines and to wear a mask and to exercise social distancing. And you know me, bro. I ain't gonna do some stupid shit without telling you. And so I'm just looking around. I'm like, are we fucking serious right now? I like someone please tell me how this makes sense. We are actively trying to fight this airborne disease that is dangerous, and we're out here in the excuse was beautiful because the excuse was you're outside, you're safer outside. And I'm like, no, wasn't this whole thing because COVID is everywhere, so we're not safe anywhere? So it was so dumb, dude. And so I remember just being out there and staring at my Marines and staring at the command. I'm like, wow, dude, I cannot wait to get out because people actually think this is a good idea to have a outside formation because that is going to protect us from COVID. And I'm like, this is insanity. And then I remember Marines not wanting to wear masks at first, and so the Marine Corps obviously didn't know what to do because Marine Corps, you got to
Yeah.
look right in your uniforms, your camis and stuff. So I mean, people are going to the chow hall and to the commissary with fucking t-shirts. Dude, I saw somebody with a
Yeah.
blue and red bandana. I'm like, dude, we out here blood in, blood out, bro. Fucking blood and cut out here, dude. They're out here buying fucking commissary. They're buying up hand sanitizer, toilet paper, and I'm like, holy shit. And then we're told we have to wear masks on base, or we will get NJP, or
Yeah.
we will get page 11. And so me and my buddy, we both went to the commissary, bought those what are those burkas with it, not the burkas, the scarves, shaw
Schmogs or whatever.
with shaws or whatever, I don't know. And so we were wearing those on base, and we got yelled at by some gunny who said we look like, you guys want to look like a bunch of operators? I'm like, no, gunny, we're trying to save ourselves from COVID-19. He's like, oh, carry on, Marine. Yeah, fuck off.
We had the initial, because a fact is like what initially came out from headquarters Marine Corps was to, and I mean all over the world, because as soon as everyone started taking it seriously, instantaneously an actual mask was sold out no matter where you looked. And so what came out from the headquarters Marine Corps was to cut up a skivvy shirt in a particular way, like the undershirts, and cut it up in a particular way so that you had two bits to tie behind your head, and then it was just like the green standard shirt in front. And so that's what everyone was doing on base at first. And then they said, well, if you do go to the store, like to the commissary, because at this point we were allowed to, if you do go and they do have a mask or however many, you can buy it and wear that. And then some people took liberties with that and got masks that had stupid things on them, and then that became a problem. So then it became you can only wear like an all black mask. And then there was a whole bunch of drama about that because nobody could get those, and it just went on in circles. But when we got back to Hawaii, I thought what was interesting was we did a quarantine when we got back on base, obviously, because we are now a new element returning into this base coming from
Right.
overseas. And we did a quarantine where everybody had to go to the barracks. And then they put up fencing all around the barracks, and they would roll up like a roach coach. So they would bring over hot chows for everyone, but they also would pull up like a roach coach, and that was the PX for the 2.5 week quarantine or whatever it was, because they had to keep restarting the quarantine. Anytime someone would break the quarantine and then come back, they restarted it. And there was one guy who did that, and then they also restarted it because there was one guy who got back from Japan later than everyone else, because he was I think he was battalion staff or something. So then when he joined, they had to restart. And then luckily it was only about 2.5 weeks. But the stipulation from the get-go was if you were married and lived on base, you were allowed to go home for your quarantine to your house. However, you were not allowed to do that if you had any children under the age of 5, I think it was.
Right, because kids were really at risk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so then I had a guy in my platoon who his infant son was born while we were in Japan.
Oh, dang.
And then we get back to the States, we get back to Hawaii, and obviously what he wants to do more than anything is go meet his new son. And now because he has an infant at home, he was not allowed to go home for that 2.5 week quarantine.
My God.
Man. So he was pissed about that, but like,
I mean, what can he do? You got to protect, right? You got to. I mean, you can't
it was
do
just
much.
stupid. It was stupid.
Yeah.
It like.
It's one
It
of
was
those things
so
where, like,
close that like, he obviously wanted to go meet his, and he wasn't the only one. This wasn't an isolated incident. I only
yeah,
knew of this one guy, but he obviously wanted to go to meet his new son. But the right thing to do, because we've been foreign and then we've been abroad, and we were obviously traveling through and we had to come face to face with a bunch of people on our way out. And then like me, for instance, I had to get picked up directly from the bus that dropped us off on base. I had to take my bags, all of my stuff. I had to get directly in the car with my wife, and we were not allowed to go, not allowed to go to the gas station, not allowed to go to the store, nothing.
Just straight home.
Just straight home. So they had told us to warn our spouses if we were going home. They were like, warn your spouse that they need to go to the commissary or to the grocery store, and everything needs to be done for the next 2 weeks before you get there, because when you get in that car, you're going straight home and you're not leaving. And I was lucky enough to get that paperwork through enough, like in time that, like, yep, my wife does live on base. No, we don't have kids. This is our address on base and everything like that. There was a couple of guys who I knew who didn't, I don't know if they didn't get the paperwork through in time or whatever happened, but I think there was 1 or 2 guys who like got denied it. But then there's 2 in my platoon I can think of now with infant children when we returned from deployment. And I mean, obviously that's got to be horrible, like you're sitting there.
I mean, you're coming home from deployment. All you want to do is meet your infant children, right? Your infant baby that you haven't met yet. So, but I mean, at least you got to go home and like spend that quarantine time with your wife and relax,
Yeah.
But definitely is like hard to imagine now, because I mean, it was the same thing when people were coming back from 2-8 off shift. They had to go straight to quarantine.
Yeah.
And it was 2.5 weeks. And every time they broke quarantine, they would have to re-quarantine. And so
Yeah.
Marines were breaking quarantine so much that we were told that if you break quarantine, you're going to get NJP'd to the max. You can even get kicked out. We were told we were going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
And so luckily I never had a quarantine. There was a scare, but I never had a quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I did that quarantine, and then after that was over, luckily, I mean, then there wasn't all that nonsense at the end where they're like, okay, it's over, but now we got to do 26 hours of paperwork that we could have done. No, like when it hit, and everybody got to go. And that was, I mean, obviously that's got to be huge for those guys, because our deployment had already gotten extended anyway, and then yeah, all that happened when we got back. But I just, there's just that level of selfishness that some people had, where like, well, I don't have to do it because I could have it and be asymptomatic, so that means just because I don't have symptoms, I shouldn't have to do this quarantine.
yeah.
And there was a couple of guys, not in our company, but there was, I think, 2 guys who got not court-martialed, but NJP'd for it because they broke quarantine and got caught. Because it's not hard. Like you see 2 guys walking away from the barracks that is in lockdown. Someone's gonna say something like.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
someone's gonna say something, and
there's eyes everywhere, dude. Eyes
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Plus, all of the command was living in the barracks also.
Yeah,
Like
obviously. So they're not
every
going to
single
let anyone
person.
fucking leave.
Yeah, because every single person from command was living in the barracks anyway, so all they have to do is look out the window, and it's like, oh hey, why are those guys walking away?
Idiots, man.
Yeah, and then there was a couple of our guys though who had gone to a school right at the end of deployment. And they went to a school in Pendleton, and so then because it was like right at the end of deployment, they just got flown back to Hawaii and put kind of on RBE for the last like 3 weeks or whatever it was. And so they had already done their 2-week quarantine by the time we got there. So they kept standing across the street from the barracks, I guess. Again, I wasn't in the barracks, but like they kept standing across the street from the barracks and like flipping everyone off and like yelling. And yeah, they had so I said they had that kind of roach coach PX thing that pulled up every now and then, and they would bring, basically the whole truck was like monsters, snacks, and beer.
Of course.
And then
the essentials.
they were trying to enforce a 1 6-pack per person limit. But I guess that didn't go over so well.
Dude.
And then they threatened, they were like, okay, pretty much if you're caught drunk, like Like, not if you're caught with more than the 6 beers, but if you're caught drunk, it's like you're getting NJP'd because you bought more or whatever, and because it became like an actual order that they could only buy one. So
Yeah.
it would be whatever, not following a direct order or whatever, not following a lawful order, and so it was just absolute chaos for that period because everyone was trying to figure out ways to skirt around it. But yeah, it was interesting.
To say the least. Well, now that we got our fill of COVID out of the way, dude, COVID's still haunting us after 2 years, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking COVID piece of shit.
Aside, you got a lot to edit out of that. You're gonna have to pick your favorite parts of that.
So now that we're done with talking with COVID and bullshit like that, so you got to deploy.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I did not get to deploy because I was under investigation. I was under hazing investigation, and so I was unable to deploy with 2A, which is all right because their deployment just turned into a float in the middle of the ocean and do quarantine because they got hit with the COVID while they were floating on ship, and so those guys had to do quarantine on ship,
Oh
and
man.
they couldn't port. They couldn't port anywhere because the ports
Oh
were closed.
man.
So I remember we were in the armory and my buddy got his call. He got a call from one of his friends that were on ship. And he said that it was terrible. Dude, he didn't even know what day it was. He had to ask us what day it was. He was like, what is today? And I was
What a
like,
nightmare.
what do you mean? And he's like, what is today? I don't even know what time. Like, I don't even know what day it is today. And we told him, and he's like, bro, he's like, the last time I checked the date was like 3 weeks ago. And
Jesus.
that sounds awful, dude. That sounds so terrible. I cannot think of a worse place to be when COVID hit, except
Yeah,
on a cruise or on a
just
ship.
yeah.
Fuck
Wow.
that.
I wonder, like, because obviously there's got to be people that come and go. There's supply ships that have to come, and whatever else happens. Like, I imagine there had to be people coming and going that would have, brought it aboard. But other
Yeah,
than that, I don't. I mean, plus on ship, you're within 3 feet of somebody at all times. You
true.
don't get more than 3 foot of space. So once it hits one person,
It's
it's
gonna spread.
going. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going.
it's gonna spread throughout the entire ship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's all. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine that, like, that mental headspace of like, I'm trapped in this boat. I don't know what day or month or time it is, and I'm here for the foreseeable future.
and they were telling us, right, we're RB, they're telling us that their deployment's getting extended for like
Oh,
2 months, and they have to do quarantine 2.5 weeks when they come back. And I'm like,
oh,
that sounds terrible.
yeah.
That sounds so bad. I did not envy them when they came back, bro. They came back, and I remember a couple of my buddies were supposed to get out like right after they came back from deployment, and they couldn't get out because they still had the quarantine.
Oh man.
And so that was, yeah. So and then they did 2 weeks quarantine on ship before they came home to
What?
try and skirt the system, be like, hey, yeah, we did our 2 weeks quarantine on
Yeah,
ship.
like no one came or
Like
left the ship.
no one came or left the ship, obviously. And they're like, no, you're still here. You still need to get quarantined and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was terrible. So,
Yeah, the like quadruple quarantining thing had quite an effect.
yeah, yeah,
So that was something. I mean, from the get go, like plenty of people I know, we'll put it that way. Plenty of people I know are very high at risk, whether it be immunocompromisation. I'm not going to be able to say that word ever, but whether they're immunocompromised or if they, any host of reasons why you're especially at risk, or it may affect you worse. But and so obviously, like, a 2-week quarantine, like, all right, I've been traveling. I've seen a whole bunch of people I don't know. Who knows if they had it and now I have it? Maybe I'm carrying it and don't have symptoms. Who knows? Um, I was okay with a quarantine, but it became a bit strange to me when because there was just so much mass confusion across the country with it, which I mean, no one knew how to handle it. Like this type of thing hasn't happened in a long time to the scale it did. At least taken on the level it has. Like it.
Yeah.
We had like H1N1 and all that, but we didn't do all this in response. But we quarantined. Yeah, we did actually the same thing. So the final 2 weeks of deployment, we quarantined in the barracks, and then we quarantined when we got to Hawaii. And so everyone was just kind of like, "We've been in quarantine for a month.
Yeah.
What's going on?"
What's the deal?
I mean, I guess better safe than sorry is, a pretty valid excuse in a situation like this, but it's just kind of strange.
Insane.
It's just strange because there, along with you do a quarantine in one place. To confirm that, someone has to get in touch with someone else on the other end of your travel, and confirm that officially in a capacity that they agree with.
Whoops. So, switching gears a little bit.
Yep.
When you got out,
Mhm.
what did you do? Like, what was the first thing that, like, the job wise, and then, did you know what you were going to do before you got out?
So I really thought I did.
Same.
And
Same.
yeah,
I had a plan. I really had a fucking plan, dude.
yeah, we've talked a bit about this privately, but yeah, I really thought I had a great, great laid out plan. I thought I had it figured out. And I think that might have been one of my mistakes, was that because you come out of such a structured environment, right? You come out of an environment where literally you wake up in the morning,
Everything.
you
Yeah.
tell someone else that you're okay and that you're in your home, and then they tell you like, okay, well now it's time for breakfast, and then we're going to meet up and do whatever we do, and then now you're going to go to lunch, and now you're going to come back, and now you're going to go home. And you come out of such a structured environment and you're like, I got a plan. I'm Mr. Freedom. I'm going to do whatever I want because I can, and I got all these things to do. So I thought I had a great plan to do real estate here, and
Oh,
I
okay.
had spent tons of time at the end of my contract, just coming up on just before I went on terminal leave, studying and doing my real estate courses, so that it's basically as soon as I got here, I could take my federal and state test and then get my license. So I got here, and I even had an interview for a job here in real estate before I left Hawaii. But I got here, did my test, got my license, and basically never touched it again. And I made $0. I made zero sales, anything, because what I found really, really quickly, and what was very, I think now that I think back on it, it was something that was very shocking, and something that kind of, internally, I think it did scare me a bit, was that I got into this group of people, where I met this group of people. I don't even think I was officially hired, because you're not really hired. You kind of work, you work as a 1099 contractor underneath a different real estate broker.
Okay.
But I don't even think I was officially even put on paper as a 1099 because I hadn't done anything yet. And I had one group like Zoom call, and from the jump I was like, these are not my people, like this is not my mesh. But anyway, and then that kind of just went away into the dust, because I was also planning anyway to do the spring semester of college. And so then I was getting ready for that, did all my paperwork and everything, got enrolled, and did spring semester, and that was going well. I've never been a great student, like in, I guess, a formal education capacity. However, after the one semester went out, ended, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll get like a summer job or something. And my mental headspace was just very strange because I didn't know. I told myself, I was like, yeah, I'm going to re-enroll for the fall semester and blah blah blah, get my degree. Um, follow that like veteran college path and just get a free bachelor's degree. Why not?
Yeah. Let's take
Um,
advantage of those bennies that we got, those
yeah,
benefits.
absolutely. That was my idea, my plan. And then through the summer, I don't know, it was such a weird mental headspace that's hard to even describe. It was like I couldn't even I couldn't really focus on what I wanted to do 6 months down the road, even because I didn't really know what was the right answer because I was in such culture shock of like, now I'm working this job and I'm here, so maybe I should just stay, but I also want to go back to school. But I also, I don't know if I should leave this job and blah blah blah. And maybe I should find a job that I can have while I am in school. And then I basically did none of those things. I, I I officially proceeded to do literally nothing.
Zero.
So
Yeah.
I just stayed at the job I was at in construction, and then I got an offer to work for a different construction company doing plumbing instead, and I did that, and I was there for a while.
Commercial or residential?
Commercial plumbing construction. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely no service.
Yeah. Yeah. No service out here. Residential's trash.
Yeah.
Commercial only.
Um, and so I did that for a while, and again, it was just one of those things where like I was doing it, and the path of least resistance was to continue doing it.
Okay.
So I think that's where my headspace was kind of like, I don't think this is actually what I want to do, but I'm already here and I'm already getting paid to do it. So what the hell? Um, yeah, it was a very strange time. And it was kind of it was very hard pressing on my relationship with my wife also because she also has been through this roller coaster of like, okay, now I'm moving to this duty station, and now we're doing this thing, and now it's time to leave, and we're leaving Hawaii, and then we get to Hawaii, or we get to Colorado here, and because she was also in Hawaii by herself the whole time COVID was happening, she was all by herself for that whole time. Um, and then we get to Colorado, and then I was just kind of like a ghost and very non-committal, I guess, and that was hard pressing for sure. And definitely still can be. And then luckily I reconnected with um, a guy we both know, Christian, and then he kind of helped line me up with what I'm doing currently, which so far so good. I love it. It's great.
Oh yeah, man. I mean,
But it's still that thing of like I'm pretty, and now I will say I've been doing this for a bit over a month. I'm very happy with it. It's very nice. It's nice to work with somebody I'm very familiar with and who speaks my same language. He was in DC, um, and we speak the same language, and so working together is a lot easier. It's kind of that mental relief of like, I'm not in a group of total strangers who are nothing like me, um, and yada yada.
yeah. I mean, is it fair? Would you agree that we are never, as veterans, we are never going to be comfortable as civilians? Like, I find myself being in college right now because I feel very alienated. I feel like I don't belong in college, and since I've been out for 2 years now. That feeling has not gone away, like at all. Like it gets smaller. Yeah, I mean, it gets smaller because you can't be that savage or that warrior mentality as a civilian. You won't work
No,
well
yeah,
with anyone.
no.
Um, and so when I was getting out, I told at uh, my meeting that what's the meeting called when you have with your CO
Um,
for outbound interview.
yeah, that's the one.
With my outbound interview, I was telling my commander, I was saying, I want to go to college. I want to be a political campaign manager. I want to, manage, I want to start at local and then slowly go up. Um, and that's what I wanted to do, or that's what I thought I wanted to do. I got out. I didn't do that. I went straight to construction. Um, I worked as a commercial plumber for a year, and that was so much fun. I miss it every day, dude. I miss going to construction job sites. I miss working outside with my hands, manual labor. I miss it a lot, and I would absolutely be doing that right now if my back wasn't so messed up.
Yeah.
Um, but I decided to do some commercial plumbing, and I was having a lot of fun. I was going to do the journeyman program and everything that the company that I was with offering. Um, I was going to do their program to become a journeyman, and my back. Dude, I remember I fucked my back up, and I couldn't walk for like 3 days. My back was getting really bad, and so I was like, fuck. And then like my back not being able to move and not being able to go to work, that just also simultaneously uh, skyrocketed my depression. And this is like the first time I'm depressed and I don't have something to distract me, such as the Marine Corps.
Right.
Because as much as I shit on the Marine Corps does a great job at distracting you from your mental health. It keeps you so busy and it keeps you so um, what's the right word? It keeps you busy enough to for you to forget that there are things in your life that you need to handle and the things in your life that are hurting you, but you just simply can't deal with them because you're just so busy and you have such a fast paced training. You know, you're in the field every weekend or you're doing PMEs or trying to get Marines PME complete. So you just don't have time to think about yourself at all.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just kind of going in circles.
Yeah. And so uh, after commercial plumbing and after my back got hurt, I couldn't do anything, so I couldn't work. I started the VA process, get my disability started, and that took roughly almost 8 months. And I didn't get to see the first like my first actual disability check until like almost a year out of the Marine Corps. And so my wife and I, we were struggling hard for money because she was still going to nursing school and I was the only one working. We were living in this one bedroom apartment that was charging rent at almost 1,000, almost $1,100. And I was barely making $1,200, $1,300. So we were barely making enough for rent. And I remember I had a split second of vulnerability. I was like, did I make the right fucking choice getting out? I was like,
Oh yeah.
and it's just like I miss that security blanket that I always have a paycheck and I'll always get paid. No matter how good I am at my job or no matter how shitty I am at my job, I will always get a paycheck and I
Yeah.
always get a lot.
As long as you don't step out of line in the
Yeah,
UCMJ and get kicked out, that's you have it. Like it's there.
yeah, it's there, and so I was definitely missing that, and I was definitely missing what we were getting paid. But I mean, I couldn't give up. I couldn't go back in, and part of me wanted to, part of me didn't want to. I wrestled with that for like a year, and then I finally made the decision. I was like, you know what, fuck this. I was like, I can do this. I can like we'll make it. And then I started working at GameStop. That was a lot of fun. That was like my childhood dream was working at GameStop.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I just wanted to work at GameStop because of the video games, because I love video games so much.
Hmm.
And so I worked at GameStop for about 6 months, and then again, my back was giving me trouble. And this is not like this is after physical therapy. This is about after almost 5 or 6 epidurals in my lower back, and nothing was helping. The physical
Yeah.
therapy wasn't doing anything. These epidurals were maybe giving me 2 months of relief, and it's just other than that, it was doing shit.
Yeah.
So I finally got the first check of disability, and that's when life got a little bit easier, and then I decided to go to college and work at GameStop, and then I was going to pursue secondary education and be a history teacher, but I changed my mind. I just recently changed my major, and so I'm here now, and I'm just like, I'm here, and I am absolutely thankful for where I am. um my wife is 6 months pregnant, and so kids on the way, daughters on the way. And so I'm looking at my life in kind of like this backward sense, as in like I'm beginning my life right now. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. Literally as soon as I could, I joined the Marine Corps. And so I signed and I got my dad's permission to go into the Marine Corps at 17 years old. And that's all I knew from 17 until I was 23, 24. That's all I knew, was the Marine Corps and was military. And so being
Yeah.
out and being out for these 2 years, I have really been dependent on learning about myself and learning about how to deal with these mental health issues and these issues that, I think every veteran that gets out has some type of mental health issue, whether that is poor self-esteem, that is, poor self-image issues, or body dysmorphia, or depression, anxiety. Like the Marine Corps, and that's not just the Marine Corps, the military puts so much stress on your body physically and mentally, and especially you have a combat-oriented job, the physical portion can bleed into your mental portion, So it just being out has definitely made me kind of have to take the reins of my own emotional baggage and like kind of have to sort through my stuff. Do you
Yeah.
find that in yourself as well, like you having to be more of a grown up with your emotions rather
Oh
than like
yeah.
put them deep down and like ignore them? You have to like talk about them with your wife or talk with them with someone.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think I definitely have that. I think there's definitely that like moment of realization, and especially with uh a spouse, it was unfair. It is very unfair to my wife if, I am just letting myself kind of dwell and be terrible, and then end up as a response of that, not doing any of my, kind of relationship duties,
Yeah.
and so there's definitely that aspect of like, I think that's what woke me up though the most was like, um through a lot of hard talks and a lot of, time, there's these things start getting revealed to you either by yourself or by other people, that, you yes, there are issues, and yes, there are maybe adjustments, and I think maybe beyond just it being an issue, I think there's just a difficulty in adjustment. There's a huge jump you're making from one style of life to a whole different one, um, and it affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And there are those unicorns that have no effects by it, and they're just like, "Yep, I'm good, I'm hanging out." Um,
Yeah, that's insane. I don't know
that's
how people
insane
do
to me.
that.
And then obviously there's those guys who say they're all good and they're all fine, and there's no
Yeah.
weirdness in their life, but there actually is. There's that also, but yeah, there was that. I think what woke me up the most, and what made me kind of really realize that I had to take this serious and like actually make myself a better person, to be a better person. Like I had to do it. Like I absolutely had to focus and sit down with myself and think about what was going on and actually process the emotions instead of just, kind of pushing them off or ignoring them. Um, it is every day a very strange experience. Some days it's a lot easier than others.
Yeah.
Like
I, I,
some days it's no big deal, or it is a big deal, but it's still, it's something that's easier to get along with and work through. Um, and some days it can be really crushing and really heavy, and um, like just lead you to want to sit there and stare at the wall.
and it's not that I like to hold things inside. I don't want to hold things inside. It's just in the Marine Corps, you couldn't show emotion. You could not get emotional. As soon as you started getting emotional, either a couple things would happen. You get hurt by words, you get picked on because you're being quote unquote, a bitch or pussy. Um, and or third, you're outcasted. You're like seen as this emotional vulnerability, because emotional based decisions are the worst types of decisions to make. You let your emotions start to make decisions for you, you become compromised in a sense. And so you almost have to get really good at faking your emotions, and you have to get used to putting on a mask every day in the
Mhm.
military. You put your
Mhm.
uniform on and you're a different person when you put your uniform on. You don't cry, you don't get sad. You are a meat eater man, and you fucking have to be just a savage and just push all your emotions aside. Emotions are not real in a sense.
Yeah.
And so, and a mix of that and before the Marine Corps, were you an emotional person before the Marine Corps?
Um, no, and that's actually what's interesting is I was I think also something just as a tangent to what I have to say is that I think there's a lot of people you meet in the Marine Corps and just in the military in general, and um, that you find out later on that yeah, we all had this big catalyst for us realizing our own mental health. You know, we all had
Yeah.
this big catalyst that pushed us eventually to be like, okay, I really need to take this seriously. But what I have found a lot of times, um, is honestly, there's a lot of stuff that goes on before the military that you never learn how to process or deal with in a lot of cases, and then you go into the military, and then you get all these other things, pushed on top of you, just things that maybe if you were in the right headspace, you could process it and you could walk away like, okay, that was an experience. Here's the positives of it. Here's the negatives. But if you've already got these other things already, kind of on hold, and then you start adding all this other stuff on top, uh, it never gets processed correctly, or at least not for a long time. But yeah, it was pre-military. I just had a lot of unprocessed emotions from a lot of life experiences beforehand. Um,
Yeah, you kind of have to push. You have to push.
and yeah, and then you find that like, okay, well now I've got this other stuff to deal with, so I've got to deal with that, and I don't, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to think about how to solve it. I'm not going to think about the next steps in these things or where to go from there because I'm away from it all. I'm detached, and I'm separate. And you're 1,000 million miles from home, so you don't even have to think about it because you're away from it.
Yeah.
But then you eventually one day you find yourself like, okay, maybe my behavior is caused because I never thought about those things or the reason they affected me, or I never processed the way that I felt after, someone said this to me when I was growing up or whatever. Um, or even when I was a teenager, like I never processed these feelings or, how these things actually affected me. I just kind of sidebarred them for 5 years.
Yeah. And I mean, I did the same thing, man. I did the same thing. I was 17 years old, high school, went to boot camp 2 weeks after I graduated. I had so many issues, like family issues that I was trying to do that I just had to shove aside. I'm just like, hey, I mean, I'm about to be a big boy, man, but I got to be a Marine. So just shut up and push, I guess. It's like the best. It's like the best thing you can do sometimes. Just shut up and
Yeah.
push, man. And so now that we're on the topic of mental health and stuff, I was going to ask you, uh, what are 5 things, like 5 things that you like to do, or the 5 things that you have that really help you tackle your own mental health and like help you every day to just keep grinding and keep pushing through the day and day bullshit.
Okay. Um, that's tough because it's one of
Because
those
it's
things where
five.
like
It's tough because it's five because that's a lot.
counting to five is hard in and of itself.
Honestly, I made it to three, and I was like, "Fuck, what comes after three? Fucking 7, 9, maybe."
But it's tough because and something I don't want to ignore or forget about here is that um, one of my one thing that really helps me is certainly my relationship with my wife, and her being very supportive, very open. She doesn't, she's not all
Shout
furious
out
and
to
pissed.
wives, man. The
Yeah, for
good
real.
wives. Shout
She's
out
not
to
all
good wives.
furious and pissed if I'm like, hey, I kind of feel like ass today. Like she's not like,
Why
oh,
do you feel like
quit
ass?
being
You
a
fucking
bitch.
don't do anything.
Yeah,
You
there's
fucking
there's
pussy.
there's no gaslighting in that scenario, and so
Yeah.
that's certainly a huge help. Um, but what I don't want to ignore in saying that is that there are plenty of people who have the same issues that you and I may, but they don't have a wife. They're out there on their own, or of any spouse, maybe not just a wife, but like a spouse,
Mhm.
um, and they're out there on their own, and so it's tough because I don't want to ignore that, but that is certainly one for me personally. And then two, I would definitely say, um, a therapeutic release for me is definitely video gaming. I've always been a
Masturbation. Oh,
gamer.
yeah.
I've always been a gamer. And what I've found recently in the past 2 years is that it helps me stay in contact and stay in touch with like you and a few other guys I know and have known the whole time I was in the military. Um, so it helps me stay in touch with you and those guys, and that's a huge resource. And also it is, at the end of the day, like, it does help you distract and, like, just give you some alone time, not to ignore your emotions or anything, but just to to ignore them. like
Yeah.
like
I mean,
like
isn't
it's
isn't
not
that the
like,
point?
yeah, it's not like a belligerent, like, I'm ignoring it because I'm not going to think about it, but it's like I'm ignoring it because I want to do something else and something fun that is going to put me in the right headspace or whatever to then go back and think. Once I'm relaxed and rested. Um, so yeah, my wife, playing video games. In the winter, I love to snowboard.
Oh, okay. Nice. I do
Um,
not have any type of balance. I fucked my knee up when I was like in sixth or fifth grade skateboarding, and I've never
mhm.
been on anything with wheels or sliding since. Oh, and I broke my wrist when I fucking roller skated as well, and that shit did not. That shit hurt, and that is the last time I fucking
I've
went on anything with wheels
I've never
besides
had a
the car.
broken bone.
Oh, you better fucking knock on wood, because when I said that, the day I said that, I broke my fucking wrist. I was like,
Actually,
oh, I never had fucking broken wrist. I never had broken bones, and then I broke my shit.
I lied. I have broken my toe. I broke one toe.
One
Um,
toe.
in that was in high school.
Okay.
Um, what would number 4 be? Yeah, see, you get to number 3, and then the rest of the numbers are hard.
For
Kind of a
shit.
tangent off of playing video games, though, is definitely, I would definitely say, um, keeping in touch with the right group of people.
Yeah, that's super important.
Keeping
That's
in
super
touch with the
important.
right group of people who are both supportive, but also not like fucking cheesy.
Yeah. Oh
You
man,
know?
you should. Yeah, man. How's your day, man?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we can get through the conversation, just like the typical banter, and then it doesn't have to be that cheesy, like, you gotta wake up and go out at 4 in the morning and you gotta watch the sunrise, man. That's how you gotta get through the day. No, it's just like, all right, now let's have, a couple of drinks and play some damn Sea of Thieves or something.
Yeah. Hey man,
So
let's
definitely
just crack some beers and play some video games.
staying in touch with good pals. I 5. I want to be that guy that says, like, oh, physical exercise gets me through the day because it helps me get in the right headspace, and it certainly is for some people. I won't discredit that. For some people, going to the gym or doing some other form of physical exercise is a great therapeutic process for some people. However, I'm a lazy turd, so it is not. So I the most active thing, like,
uh,
I have gone a few times, but definitely have not developed a habit like I used to have.
right.
Um, I don't
Yeah,
know. I think
dude, I don't want to work out, man. I
I
really
don't want to
don't,
do it
dude.
after being forced to do it.
After being
I
forced to
don't
do it
want to
and
do it.
forced to work out, and I
like,
worked out in the Marine Corps to battle my depression, and I just didn't know it. So I was
yeah,
putting up solid numbers in the Marine Corps,
yeah,
but
you were.
and I was like huge. I was like ready to transfer over in the civilian world, dude. I now just got in the civilian world. I was like, dude, why the fuck would I go to the gym, bro?
It's not fun. It's
Why?
not fun
It's
for me
not
anymore.
fun, dude.
Like
Like,
I completely understand that there's guys who still love it, and it is a therapeutic thing for them, or maybe it's not. Maybe they just have horrible crippling body dysmorphia and they have to go, otherwise they'll explode. But but yeah, I would say I guess number 5 in a weird kind of Inception style way is like actually taking it serious. You know,
taking your mental
take
health serious?
yeah like
Okay.
taking it
That's
seriously
good.
and not being and and actively making an effort to like stop telling myself like, oh, it does it quit being a dick, or quit being a
Yeah.
pussy. um and actually just taking it for what it is and then properly dealing with it. Because that, like, a huge way to get through things is to first acknowledge they exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's kind of a horrible fifth example, but like, you know what?
No,
No,
man,
I
I
guess
agree.
a
Yeah, I
good
agree.
fifth. Well, then I'll do a number 6. Actually resting.
Dude, that's that's such a good thing that you brought that up, man.
Actually, like, and not, I
Rest.
don't mean just sleeping, but like telling everyone else, like, nope, sorry, not hanging out tonight. I'm not gonna play games. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna sit down on the couch with my wife and dog, and I'm just gonna relax. We're gonna watch some TV, and we're gonna take a breather.
Yeah,
And sleeping.
that's
Sleeping
good.
is definitely a huge plus, but I'm still bad at that.
That that's a good one because I feel like there's a lot of military veterans. I don't need to rest. I can rest when I'm dead. Rest is for the weak. Sleep is for the weak. Uh, no, it's not. Rest is for the smart. Rest is for the intelligence. You
And it's
gotta
just
rest.
healthy.
It's just you have to rest, dude. You know who doesn't rest? Meth addicts and heroin addicts. You see a meth addict on the street and you see him fucking tweaking out of their mind. They're on like 2 hours of sleep in the past 30 hours. That's not who you want to like emulate, my man.
6 days deep, just staring
Si-
at
Yeah,
a
dude, 6 days
ghost.
of just fucking nicotine monsters and fucking gas station tornadoes, bro. Like that type of shit. I definitely don't miss. So I agree with you 100%. Do rest.
Hey,
That's such a low
gas
key
station
thing.
tornadoes, they're good. All right,
They still smack.
they still smack. I still get them every now and then when I stop into like a 7-Eleven.
Um, I get so my five. Definitely, of course, I gotta say my wife. My wife got me through the hard times and got me through the even harder times in the Marine Corps. She was with me when I went through my investigation. She was with me when I really thought I was going to stay in, so she's been with me through the thick of it. So my wife is like my number one support. She's super awesome. And so shout out to my wife. Uh, Second is definitely it's gonna be my parents, and not just my parents, but like my support system that I've been able to rely on since I've been home. So like my sisters, my siblings, my in-laws, and all that. Like that support system. I think having a support system that knows you and knows me, that's really, really helpful. Because I mean, we're weirdos, dude. Like veterans are weirdos, bro. We make jokes about stupid shit. We say dumb things. We say gay things. Like we say things that some people will hear us and be like, "Wow, those guys need to be locked up in the mental ward like right now." Like those guys are saying like insane shit, and they're part of society. Like some Marines should not be part of society by simply because of how fucking weird they are. So um, definitely the support system that I've built. So
Yeah.
all my buddies, that just like not just my family, but all my buddies I made in the Marine Corps, you, all the people I still keep in contact with, dude. That's like the besides my wife, dude, the support system is like number one. I know I can hit up anyone at any time, and I'll know that I'll get a response, whether that's a phone call or text. And that's something that I wouldn't be able to have in the Marine Corps because I only speak to one person from high school, besides my wife. Um, so that's number two. Number three is probably it's a good tie between video games and my dog. I have a little Yorkshire Terrier. He's 2 years old. He's a cutie patootie, but
Little chicken nugget.
a little chicken nugget, bro. A little 7 pound monster. Um, he's definitely he's just so little, and so like I have to be gentle when I pick him up, and I have to be gentle when I play with him and stuff. So like being that really helps me know that there is a something out there other than my wife that loves me and that appreciates me and stuff besides my family and my wife. So when I come home and he's jumping all over me, and I know that no matter how shitty of a day I have, or no matter how much of a piece of shit I think that I am, I got someone that will just come up and love me no matter what. Um,
Oh yeah.
so dogs, that's why dogs are badass, dude. Fuck
Yeah,
cats. You like
I would
cats?
have to add my
I
dog to my
fucking
list.
hate cats, man. Um, but
I definitely would add my dog to the list.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, dogs are legit, man. I could be having the worst day of my life, and my dog will be coming up and just give me, make me pet him, and I'll pet him for a couple minutes, and I just feel better. So, fuck, is that the third thing? I really can't count, dude.
I
Fucking
think yeah, I
yeah,
think
that
that
was
was
my
three.
third, right? So fourth, it's probably gonna be weed, and and that's just because I never did any drugs before I went in the Marine Corps. Um, only tobacco. So I guess is that tobacco a drug?
It, I think it is.
Tobacco is
I think
that's a stupid
nicotine is a
fucking
drug.
question.
I don't know. I'm too dumb for that.
Nicotine
I know nicotine's a
drug?
drug.
Question mark?
Or it's a chemical?
Nicotine is a stimulant drug. Yep, that speeds up the
Okay.
messages traveling between the brain and body. Yep. All right. So definitely marijuana since I've been out. I got my med card. That helped me out with my pain. That's helped me out like with my mellow, like being mellow, and just like being able to vibe and just chill out. So I am doing sober October. So shout out to sober October, which I'm gonna fucking hate my life all of October. Uh, but definitely marijuana. That helps me that helps with my social anxiety. It helps with my anxiety about talking and stuff. Uh, so that's definitely number four. Number five is probably going to be comedy and jokes and just joking about trauma and joking about just life in general. If you take life too serious, it can get really scary really fast. And so I always try and keep the mood light. I always try and keep it lighthearted. I'll crack a joke about things that shouldn't be joked about. I'll joke about nothing is sacred to me, not even myself. So I will joke about anything and everything, and that's something that I've had in me since I was a kid, and that's something that was even more in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
If you can make your friends laugh, just a good genuine laugh, you can really it helps a lot with just yourself and knowing that you can help other people laugh and smile. So that's number five is comedy for me. It's just I want to do stand up one day. I want to get in front of crowds and tell my jokes and tell my life story because
Oh, I would go.
my life is like the biggest fucking joke of all. So
It would be hugely ironic to do it like at like a E club.
fuck, dude, I should do an E club, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes, dude. You
because
might just fucking
the
give me an idea.
self-deprecating humor would hit.
What a hit, dude. But
Yeah.
fucking, you want to know why I'm a piece of shit? Because I was in the fucking United States Marine Corps, and everyone was like, "Ah, you fucking eat crowns, you stupid bitch." Like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So that's definitely my five. And I think just being self-aware and just knowing that it's okay to not be okay. Would
Yeah.
you? Would you say that's easier to grasp now that you're out? Is that it's okay not to be
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's a good way to that's a really good way to say it, is like it's okay if you're not, you know.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, I mean, like there's still the stigma of like, if you have you know, I still find that there's a stigma of places, people, you know, jobs, schools, groups, that if you are okay with saying that sometimes you're not okay, that's very strange. That's very alien to them. That's, you know, oh my gosh, like this guy's about to go off the deep end. But like, no, I'm just okay with admitting that, you know, I'm not okay all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Not every day is at 110%. Some days are fine and you're at 110%, and some days, you know, you're just kind of trailing because you're like, all right, you know, really got punched in the gut here, you know, this by life recently, but we're getting through. And it's very strange because yeah, I think that's huge. I think it's okay to not be okay is a great way of putting it, because it is, and the only way to address a problem is to acknowledge it. Um, but it's still so strange to me, kind of on a sidebar, that there's still in 2022 groups, people, like entire companies or whatever you want to say, that are like off put by you admitting that.
It's just people aren't ready. I mean, no, nobody is gonna. Nobody's normal. I mean, if you think you're normal, you're a fucking idiot. Like there is no such thing as normal. Um, and so we all go through our personal struggles, and we all go through our own shit. And so to admit to the masses, to admit to people like I'm not okay, that's like that's a huge flex, and that's huge because that's admitting to those around you, like, hey, I'm not okay, but I get through this. Some days I am 110%, like you said. Other days I can barely get out of bed. I can barely take a shower because I just feel so defeated. Um, so it's just like you have to keep going, and you have like don't don't listen to the bad voices in your head. Don't listen to the naysayers. You can keep pushing, and you can survive. Um, and on that note, this has been the first episode of the Let's Get Mental podcast. This is by my friend Tanner. Tanner, you got anything to say before we leave?
Yes. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
It's okay not to be okay. Hundred
and it's
percent.
okay to joke about it in the right company. It's okay to find your group. It's okay to a huge thing also, it is okay to cut people off or cut people out of your life that are, you know, negative influences or make you feel awful. Uh, and it's also okay to tell them that that's what they've done,
Hmm.
because maybe they'll make amends, maybe they won't. Who knows?
I love
I
it.
don't know.
That's couldn't say it any better. If you are listening and you like my podcast, please give the like. Leave me a comment. If you don't like it, leave me a comment. If you do like it, leave me a comment. If you want to tell us how much we suck or how much we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, leave a comment. Um, this has been the first episode of the Let's Get Mental podcast, and I hope to see you the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.